Hi everyone, have you ever wished your automations could think for themselves? Well, as of April 14, 2025, Make.com has officially launched AI agents, a groundbreaking feature that brings real-time intelligence to your workflows. We have seen many examples of people building agents in tools like NI10, and glad Make.com catch up in this agent game. These AI agents can understand goals in natural language, adapt to changing conditions, and make context-aware decisions, all within Make's no-code environment. The best thing, it works on all your pre-created scenarios. In this video, I'll show you step by step how to build an AI agent that will reason through when to extract the client information, send personalized emails, and update your CRM, all live and easy to follow. The difference between the standard scenario building is that we usually think for the system when it needs to use a certain trigger to push for an update. Here instead, it is done by AI agent, and the agent decides whether to send an email or update a dataset. And just before we start, those who don't know me, my name is Maksims, and I run my own AI automation agency, Flowby.ai. If you want to build a custom AI solution for your business, the link will be down in the description. If you like this video, subscribe for the channel, it helps me grow. Alright, let's start. Let me show how it was done before. So before, when we were using AI agents, we were needed to add different functions to our GPT agents, or we can call them tools essentially. That's pretty much the same thing. And you would go with your custom instructions, and I will be showing this an example of the custom GPTs for this case. So we got our custom GPT that was calling the database, and we were providing all the instructions here, but then you can have actions right down there. And here is the JSON schema that basically had two different requests. One was get request and the other one post request. So get request was used to retrieve product details, and you had to provide all those kind of difficult explanations, what this is used for, what is the response structure you're expecting, and then you will have a post request in the same format. Of course, there are plenty of different custom GPTs already that will help you to build those JSON schemas, but you will have to create like a sophisticated schema here. You probably have to have like a little bit of a background or at least understanding of how that works so that you can build those systems. Not anymore. Whenever you log into your Make.com account, on the first try, you will see a pop-up saying, hey, AI agents is here. And on the left-hand side menu bar, and you will see AI agents button appeared. So if we go there, here we can basically see different tutorial videos of how those AI agents are made. What is more important, we can create one ourselves. Let me start with a simple example. Let's actually create our own agent. So we press create agent, and here we need to connect to different API service. So if you don't have one, you will go to add, and you have to select whichever model you want to use. Either it's OpenAI, Anthropic, Mistral, etc. For each model, you will need to provide an API key. And let's for example take OpenAI. So I've got the name for my OpenAI connection, and here I need to provide the OpenAI key. In order to access the OpenAI key, you have to go to platform.openai.com, then you go to your account, you go to your profile, and in your profile you select on the left hand side API keys. So we'll have different API keys. You go with create a new API key, you just name it somehow, and you select the project, default project, hit create key. Here you have it. So you need to copy paste that key right here and just click save, and you will have your OpenAI account added. In order to use the OpenAI key, you still need to add a little bit of money so that you can use the model as you go. Basically, you pay per usage here. And if you want to use any other model, you can pretty much pre-select it here. You will need the API key for each model, and you can use those models right inside of the Make.com. So the next is we need to give it a name. So let's say AI assistant. Let's give it a name, and usually you would probably want to give a more specific name, what it helps you with. So in my case, this agent will be helping with 3 different things, and we will build those scenarios together. But let's actually leave this as AI assistant as for now, because we don't know yet what's going to help with. The next, we need to choose a model. And here, what is actually not so nice is I see that you only have like how many? 6 different models to pre-select from. So this week there were new models like GPT 4.1 added to the API, and we don't have them here. So that's kind of not nice. I don't like that you have to like have a specific choice, but I think in most cases it's going to be enough, the models that you have here. So we'll go with GPT-4o mini for this example, and here we need to give it a system prompt. And as for now, we'll go if you are a helpful assistant. So we don't have any specifics right now. So that's basically the system prompt that will go before any other instruction that we provide. Once we click save, we will have our AI assistant created that we can already deploy in some other scenarios. So now we'll show you that in a minute. But before that, there is a simple option. So first of all, you get a system prompt that we have already created, and the other one is system tools. So we can add different tools to the AI assistant, and we're gonna get there just in a moment. Before that, let's actually take a look at the settings. So we got the documentation, and you can go and read how those AI agents actually work. So here on the left hand side, you will have different sections appear to read how those AI agents works. I will leave a link down in the description below so you can read it. Or you can go to the agent settings. And once again, in the agent settings, you can change the name of the agent, you can change the model, you can select the output token limit. Here, it's 100,000, should be enough for most of the cases, I guess. And recursion limit is needed when you'll be creating different loops, when your output of your AI agent will not be kind of a single output, but you wanna improve constantly based on the multiple iterations, then you would need that recursion limit. Basically, it says if the agent ends in a loop that it can't stop, yeah, because you give it an agent, make me the best strategy in the world, and it consistently tries to find what's going to be the best strategy for you, and just at some point he might just go forever basically finding what is the best strategy, etc. I'm a little bit oversimplifying stuff, but what I'm saying here is that if the agent ends in a loop, you want to loop to stop at some point, because otherwise it will just eat all your credits. So 300 here, after 300 tries is going to stop, and that's by default. And iterations from history count, again, if we want to pass to the model the thread ID so that the agent remembers our past conversations, we want to say here that at least 10 past messages that's going to pass there. For our example, we're not going to use that, but I just want to make sure you guys know that, and you can keep this in mind. All right, so let's actually take a look. What is the system tool? So the system tool right now, and what is pretty cool with the make scenario, that all your tools that you build for an agent is basically your scenarios. And this is like probably a different shift we have to think about, because otherwise before we will have to provide a JSON schema, and we will have to have those webhooks and all that stuff. Here it's kind of built in natively. So each scenario, it has a webhook to trigger the scenario, and it has a webhook to pass certain variables that we need. And we're going to discuss that a little bit later, but let's actually build simple tools right now that it can do on our behalf. Instead of us generating those complicated JSON schemas, we're just gonna use the native Make.com interface to generate simple tools and simple scenarios for us. So first of all, we create a new scenario that will send an email, and this is just for the purpose for you guys to show how that actually works. So let's actually give it a proper name, and I'll go with something like tool email sender. Okay, so for this one, I will use Gmail app. So I'll use Gmail, and we go with send an email. Okay, make sure the right account is selected. So we need to add a few things. So we need to add an email address, subject, and content. So before that, if we want to trigger this scenario, we will have to have like a webhook at the beginning of the scenario to pass certain variables, so that we can include those variables right here. Now we don't have to have a webhook anymore, because this is going to be a tool. We have another option added right here. It's called scenario inputs and outputs. And if we press here, we'll have different things, inputs and outputs. This is kind of works the same as a webhook. So if we go with the scenario inputs, those will be the variables that we will pass to this scenario. If we go with the scenario outputs, those will be the variables that we pass out of the scenario back to our AI agent. So scenario inputs, as we see here, we need three things: the email to whom we are sending it, we need a subject line, and we need a content. So let's go there and create those three variables. So first is going to be email recipient, so person who receives an email. And by the way, guys, in this case, the description is very important. Why the description is important? Because basically this will be instructions for the model to understand where we need to put that information, what kind of information goes there. So if we just leave it blank, the model will try to assume what is this variable, what actually means. We don't want that. We want to make sure the model reads the description and puts the right variable in the right place. So make sure you do describe what this means. All right, so the next one, we go email subject. And by the way, here it is important we don't use space bars. We always use underscore for any space bars. So subject of the email, and then we go to the last variables, email body text of the email. Okay, we can set those as required, the multi-line, that's not important. You can select that it's not only a text, it's array, collection, or date, whatever you wish. But here's that, just just not really important. So we've got those 3 variables coming, and once we have created those variables, whenever we're going to go to our email module here, you will not see those variables natively. But if you go to the last module right here, you will see those scenario input variables appear, and those are basically agent that is going to be passing those variables to this scenario. In my case, we have to select the email recipient, we have to select the email subject, and here we have to select email body. Okay, so once this is done, we click save. So now we have set this tool to run. Whenever an agent is going to trigger this scenario to pass that information, agent will try to gather that information from the recipient that is asking the question, or asking the AI agent to send an email, because it will need that to pass it to this module. Okay, it will try to assume it unless you pass it yourself. Okay, so another thing, in order for the scenario to run, you have to always set it to run on demand. So now I haven't saved the scenario. So you save the scenario, you run it, and now you can select to run it on demand. Basically, this would mean whenever you trigger it, it is going to run. And whenever we trigger it, it's basically decided by the AI agent. All right, so now we go back to our AI agent, we click save, and now we will get another scenario where we will access to this agent. So there is another module, AI agent, make AI agents. So run an agent is basically a trigger for our agent that we have. So what it consists of, so here we have created AI assistants. So let's pre-select those. We've got the additional tools. So now we need to add this tool that we've just created to the scenario. So we go here and we have another name for it, email sender, or it was tool email sender. That was the one that I've tested before, and that's not the one we are looking for. It hasn't updated yet. It actually takes time, so sometimes we need to wait a little bit and refresh. So let's wait until we have it. We still don't have it, so let me make sure I save it and refresh. Okay, because sometimes it just takes time. So that scenario has appeared in the whole list and it can access that scenario. Okay, so let me actually close all the other sheets that are not relevant. So let me try again. So we go with tool and we still don't have it. Okay, so we need to wait a little bit. Let's actually wait. Let me go through the other instructions and then we get back. So here we can add additional system instructions if we want. So the original instructions were saying you're just a helpful assistant, so there was not much in it. Here we can say that you have access to an email sender tool. Whenever you are asked to send an email, generate the subject line and body context and body of the email yourself, and use the tool to send an email. It's not mandatory to tell this model whenever it needs to use that tool. We will need to provide it in the description, and the model kind of assumes it by itself, but it just doesn't hurt sometimes to be more specific and just tell it what it needs to do. Okay, so let's actually take a look if we got our tool added right here. So it's not here, so I'm gonna click save on this one and I'm gonna refresh that agent again. So let me check if it is added. Okay, so now it is added. So it's uncategorized email sender. The one that we have created here, tool email sender, is added here. So make sure you wait a little bit until the tool appears in your toolbox. Okay, now very important stuff. You have to tell it the description. So description will actually explain the model whenever it needs to use that tool. So the description is whenever sends an email to a client, or sends an email, whatever. Let's be very specific. Here you have a limit of 240 characters, so don't be really short and to the point. Okay, so now as you can see, additional tool has been added. So we can read what this tool is. You can go and access and look what the tool looks like, what is the scenario, and basically here we provide additional instructions. As we go for the messages, we may say, hey, so here we can go with a custom message. Let's say send an email to this client that the price will go up by 10%. Let's imagine that's the scenario. Okay, So we provided the email. The model will need to understand that this is the email it needs to take. It needs to generate the subject line and the email body and pass that to another tool. So let's see if the model can actually do that. So we close, we save, and then we run the agent and see if the agent can actually access the tool that we have. So once this runs, we can go there and actually check if it uses a specific tool. So now, as we can see, the scenario has been run and we have used the tool right here. Let's actually go to the email box and check if we received the email. So here you go. We've got upcoming price increase notification. Dear client, we hope this message finds you well. We want to inform you that blah, 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 blah. Okay. And it provided some credentials for the company. It's actually not formatted nice, and I don't like it. That's why what we need to do, we need to provide the description in the HTML format. So instead, what I'm going to ask the agent is, whenever you generate a body of the email, you have to provide it in pure HTML format. Okay, and let's just try again, because if it provides it in the HTML format, it can format it properly so that we have the first line in the beginning, the second line on the top, etc. So let's take a look. All right, so now we got the second email, and the second email just looks much better. So we have, dear valued client, we would like to inform you blah 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 this, and it kind of structured the nice way. So the model here just came up itself with the subject of the line, with the email content, but it used the right email actually to pre-select in the tool. And if we go to this tool and look at it, basically here we pass three different things. So we pass the email, we pass the email content, and we pass the subject line. And it, you know, two of the variables were created by the AI agent itself, and the email variable was taken from the user message that we used. Okay, so this is how it works, how the first tool works. Make sure it runs on demand. Make sure it has its description in the toolbox right here, because if it doesn't have a description, it will not know when this tool needs to be used. Okay, and that's how kind of a simple way of AI automation of the agent with different tools actually looks. Right, once we've built something pretty simple, let's actually build something more sophisticated. So think about an AI assistant that will be able to access your Google Drive folder with all your files, and will be able to find and extract the exact file you need to find that information and provide you with the context. So instead of you going and actually searching the right file and right context of that file to find an answer to your query, you could have AI doing that for you. And how we can actually build that, let's actually take a look. So first of all, think about, it would be nice to have an AI to access a specific file. For this one, we can use, you know, Google Drive. Sorry, not Google Drive, but Google Docs, for example. So I can have get content of a document, because here we have different files, and if we can give an access of our AI assistant to a specific file, it can retrieve this data, which is really brilliant. So here, for example, we can go by drop down, we can select a specific file. Let's actually find the right path. So it's lead to offer. And let's imagine we are talking about the client, let's say Boss Huga. There is this client Boss Huga. We can save it. So once again, let's remember that we need to save a scenario. We need to run the scenario on demand for the tool to work. And we should name the tool properly. So we will go with tool get information from custom offers. Okay, so that's the file. So if you run the scenario once, we will just get the information from that file. And if we go to that context, so here's the information, cooperation offer, their new flow, here's the description of the offer, the price, and all that. So we want to pass this information back to our agent. And how are we going to do this? And in order to pass this information, there is another module that was created for the specific purpose, which is called scenarios. And here there is this return output. Basically what it does, it takes the output from this scenario or returns back to your AI agent. So in order to use the scenario output, it asks out to add scenario outputs. And this works the same as before. Here we had scenario inputs, and in this particular scenario for this tool, we don't have any scenario inputs. We have only scenario output, and this is going to be basically the custom offer that we have. So here we can go as for the scenario outputs, and we can say custom offer. Okay, the offer from a client, the offer to a client. Okay, the custom offer to a client, including price, description of the task, and deadlines. Okay, so we pass that here, we save it, and once we save it, if we click here, the custom offer variable is added, and what is left is basically we need to pass that information back here. So now if this guy is actually saved and works on demand, we can add this tool to our AI agent. The only thing here we will need to do is we will need to wait a little bit while this tool actually appears in the toolbox. So let's actually take a look. So if we go with the tool, it actually doesn't appear here yet. So let's actually wait a bit while it's updated. All right, so the tool has been added. All right, so let's take a look if we have it. So we go here and tool, and we have get information from custom offers. All right, so this tool has been added, and now we need to provide a description when AI agent needs to use that particular tool. So we say get information from client offers, including price, deadline, description, work description. Okay, so now we will pass this description to AI agent. And basically now we have that the agent have two tools. If you want to change the description, you can click on this cogwheel icon, and it has the additional system instructions that you have access to an email sender tool. Here we can add, you have access to get customer offers tool, which will provide you with additional context on the information of the job description, pricing, and deadlines for your clients. Okay, so here was a message, send an email to this client and blah blah blah. So instead we can say get, so we will be accessing the information just of one single client, and this is basically, we just for now, for the simplicity, we have selected one specific client, Boss Huga. So let's actually ask our AI agent what was the price we provided to Boss Huga client. Okay, because it's very specific, so it needs to use that tool, and we'll get just this number. Later on we will build the complexity a little bit for this scenario so that AI actually figures out which file it needs to use. But we're gonna, for the simplicity purposes, we're going to use this AI agent as for now to try if that actually properly works. So if we go here and look at this scenario, it actually needs to run. And let me actually see. So it doesn't show here, but if we go back, we can see that we just triggered the scenario and it worked just fine. So it, at the end of the day, it provided the whole custom offer back to our AI agent that is right here. And that's why AI agent provided a response for us. It says the price provided to the Boss Huga client is 1,700 euros plus VAT, and they provided the payment terms. So now this AI agent was able to specifically access this tool, right? But the problem is, so right now it is actually tied to one specific file, but we want to use this agent so it actually figures out which file it needs to use by himself, not just us specifically linking to the Boss Huga file. What if we choose another client and it will not be working right now? Okay, so in order to use another file, what we need to add another module, which is going to be Google Drive module. Basically, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be providing access to our specific folder, and we're going to be getting all the files in this folder, basically all the custom offers, and then passing this information to AI to understand whichever file we need to use. And once we use that file, this file information is going to be passed to our AI agent. Let's actually build that. So we need to use Google Drive module search for files. So once we have that, we need to connect this to our scenario. And here we're going to be selecting a specific folder. In my case, it's going to be lead to our folder, and we need to retrieve all the files. So if we run this one once, we're going to get all the files that are located in our folder. In our case, those are like 10 different files. And from those 10 different files, what we can extract is the name of the file, and we can extract the file ID. And basically, those are two things we're going to be needing, because how you would understand that this is the right file? You would look at the name of the file. And for the AI to access that file, you need to provide it with the file ID. Let's actually see how that works. So next, I should have an AI module that will actually analyze which of the file it needs to choose. But the problem as this one, it actually outputs those as 10 different bundles. So those are going to be 10 different runs. Instead, I don't want 10 different runs. I want to actually have just one smooth run that is going to do that for us. That's why we need another aggregator module, which we're going to use. And this would be like text aggregator. So we're going to use here. And basically we'll go with let's go with the name of the bundle, and then we go with the name of the file. And in order to select the name of the file, we can find it. We can find it right here. Next, we're going to pass the file ID. And the reason we need the file ID is just because that will be the unique ID how you can access a specific file in Google Doc. And for this one, the file ID is right here. And I'll probably use another separator line in order to better just see for the model to use. And if I run this module once again, then we can see that all the files were aggregated right here. So our AI is going to get the information. Here we have 10 different files with the file names and file IDs. Basically, AI will need to understand about what file we're asking that information and select the right file ID. Okay, and for this one, we're going to use another module, which is chat completion module. Okay, because it's very simple. We don't need an assistant. We don't need an agent for this. So for this one, we need to select the model. And here we go. Today, we're going to use a newly API access only GPT 4.1 module. I will leave a link down in the description to the announcement of this module. It is actually much cheaper and a little bit more sophisticated and smarter than the 4.0 model. It should be enough to do with 4.0 because the task is very, very basic and simple. You can even use like nano model, but let's actually use 4.1 mini. Okay, and then we add a message, and basically the message here could be, as a developer, you help me understand whichever ID, file ID I need to choose. And then we can go with another instruction saying you need to analyze what user you need to analyze and understand about what file the user is asking, and then select the right ID of that file. You must output your result in the JSON format, and let's actually write how that works. So we go with file ID, and then we go with whatever the file ID is, and then basically that's actually it. And let's actually provide a couple of examples. So as input, you will receive price for mess advisory. For example, the user might be asking the questions, what was the price we sent to mess advisory? And that will be the input that the model is going to receive. And then it will have all the different examples of the previous files. Let me actually take this one as an example. Okay. So that we can just copy paste that, so that is just a little bit simpler. We don't need to rewrite it with our hand. So that will be the query, and then it goes with this information, and it's asked about the price for a mess advisory. Do we have a mess advisory? We don't have a mess advisory. Let's say price for Boss Huga, for example. And let me actually specify. So this is the input, and now we're gonna go with the output. And just, providing input-output pairs is just a few short examples for the model, just to better understand what we are expecting from the model. So here it will go with something like output file ID, and then it goes with this file ID, and then basically that's it. So now I think it's pretty much enough information for the model to understand what we're expecting from it. So if we say, and if we actually, let's actually test that. Let's pass the user message and let's connect it to our scenario. So let's say price for whatever we had here. Let's say price for ecom pay, for example, and then provide all the text that we've aggregated. So the model should pre-select the right file ID for us so that later on we can use it in our scenario. So as you can see here, we got the result and we get the file ID. Okay, so the problem is it actually outputted the result as text, not in the JSON format. And this is because we haven't specifically pre-selected this in the model settings. So besides the text format, besides the instructions in the text specifically, we have to say what is the response format we are expecting. So instead of text, we have to say we are expecting JSON, and we need to pass the JSON format. Also here for the temperature, I'll probably select 0.5 so that it's not very creative, and let's actually run it again. Okay, let's save it. Now we got the file ID, and the file ID is just exactly the right ID that we need to use in our scenario later on. So now when we access the Google Docs, instead of just finding this right file, we go by mapping. And instead of using specific file, we're gonna map this file ID. And let's actually see if we can actually leave that once. And let's see if the model can actually access the right file when we ask about it. All right, so it's ready, and let's actually see. So it discusses about the eCompay, okay? And here, I think we also asked about eCompay, so that's actually correct. The only problem that is right here, we have pre-created this for one specific client, but in order for the AI model to use that, this input query has to be selected as the input variable so that AI agent can actually pass the right input. So here you have to go to scenario inputs, and we have the scenario outputs that are right here, but here we need to pass a specific input. So we're going to add an item and we say query. Let's go with query. And the description is going to be about the user question about a specific company. Okay. So now as we have this scenario input here, instead of user asking about eCompay, we're going to pre-select that variable right here. So instead of price of eCompay, we go here and we say query. Basically, this is going to be the query that will be created by AI agent to access a specific file. Okay, so once we select this one, we click save, we can go back to our AI agent. Let's actually double check. So the tool is already connected, and here we'll have access to get custom offers tool, which will provide with additional context on the information, price, and description. So the information is okay. And here we can ask what was the price for MS advisory client. So now instead of we actually pre-selecting the right file, AI is going to get all the list of all the files in the folder, understand which file we are talking about, and will access that file content and pass it back so that it can answer this question. So let's actually see if that works just fine. What was the price for MS advisory? And let's actually run it. So if we get back, we should be able to see the model being run right now. Yes, so the model has run, and let's see what the response the agent actually got. So the price for MS Advisory Corporate Budgeting Services is $1,700. If we go here and we open MS Advisory folder, if we go here, we can actually see that indeed the price is $1,700. Okay, that's pretty nice. So now we have actually created another agent that can access a specific folder in our Google Drive, get all the files, find the right file, find the information from that file to actually answer our response. And I can ask any questions about any offer right now, and it will be able to call the right tool to access the right information to provide me with a response. All right, so now let's actually try to make it a little bit different, and let's ask our AI agent to use two tools together. Instead of asking it to access a specific file, we can ask it, get the last price we provided, flow with in absolute terms, and tell them and send them an email saying that the price will go up by 10%, mention price in absolute terms because of inflation, for example. Okay, the only thing we need to pass is basically the email of that person. If that email was already in the file, it can pick up from the file, but because it's not there, actually, I'm going to provide the email right here. So let's say that's going to be the email of the client, flow email. Okay, so now what we are asking AI agent to do is basically use two different tools. Let's see if it can do that for us. So now we can back here and we can see this scenario is triggered. So it's trying to extract the information, and then it will need to use another tool to send an email. And as we can see, the email actually goes out. So let's see if we get a new email. If we go there, we see important update, price adjustment notification. Dear Flow team, that's basically the company. We wish to inform you that due to inflation, the price of our budgeting Our services will increase by 10%. The previous cost was 1,700, and after the adjustment, the price would be 1,870 plus VAT. We appreciate your understanding. Best regards, CFO and founder, Flowby.ai. This whole thing was automated. So it was able to access a specific folder, get the price from that folder, calculate the 10% increase in price, and send that email on my behalf. So I just needed to tell it what to do. How cool is that? This is crazy. And let's actually use one last thing for our AI agent. So let's actually add another tool so that it can actually update a CRM whenever it sends an email. Okay, so now we'll have agent be using like 3 different emails. So again, in order to do that, we need to go to scenarios. We need to create a new scenario, and we need to name this properly: tool update CRM, and let's say Google Sheets. In my case, it's going to be Google Sheets. So we go to Google Sheets and we add a row. It's right here. In my client folder here, I have a clients database, and basically the clients database is the small database of all the clients that I have. And those are basically my dummy variables that I've used before. So in order to do that, I can actually pre-select this file by just selecting the drop down. Just make sure you select the right email for the right Google Drive. So we go to lead to offer, and here we can choose the right file, clients. Okay. So next we've got just one sheet, and we'll have different tables: first name, last name, country, email, and many other things. So again, in order to place those files, again, we will need to use different input variables. So I'll go and just create the input variables that I have here. So first name, last name, I don't have really first name, last name. I have the email, I have company name. So I'll go with email of a customer. Then I'll go with company name. Just make sure you use the name of the company, use the underscore for the names. What else do I have? I got email. I got a message. Let's go with message, custom message sent to a client. Do I have anything else? I don't have really date and time there. I don't have turnover and all the other stuff. So let's just pre-assume we want to add these 3 variables. So once we create them, again, when we go there, we can select what was the email. So we go and select the email. What was the company name? It's right here. What was the message? It's right here. So we click save. And once again, let's remember, we need to save the scenario where we need to run the scenario on demand. We need to save that. And now when we get back to our agent, we need to wait a little bit once the information updates and we can see that tool in the toolbox of the agent. All right, so we've got our tool added, tool update CRM Google Sheets. So we need to add a description: update our CRM in Google Sheets. Update our CRM with client data in Google Sheets. Okay, so now the AI agent will have actually 3 different tools. It is not mandatory to actually describe each of the tools, but it sort of provides additional information to the AI agent, and it doesn't just harm just to tell you have access to another tool, access to update CRM in Google Sheets tool, where you will need to pass an email, company name, and custom message. I think that's just enough. And here what we can go with, we can say you have to do that thing, but actually let's use all the 3 tools. After all, update a CRM database with the new information. And you can actually, if you would build an agent that would do this constantly, you can basically just say, hey, this will be your system instructions, and you will be just adding, new additional information or whatever. The cool part about this one is that you can ask it whatever you wish, and it will find information. It will use the right tools, or if you just say this 2 things without the last one, it will actually only use 2 tools, although it has access to 3 tools. But if we say, then after all, you need to update the CRM, it will actually need to do that for us. So let's actually see how that works. So let's run it again, and let's see if it uses the right tool. So now it retrieves the information from our database. This is done. Then it needs to send an email. So let me double check that. Okay, I just fucked up that. So we can see there that we just used. In the last one, it needs to update the Google Sheets. And I'm not sure if it done this one, but as we can see here, 552.02.08, it means it's just added the client. So if we go to our Excel file, Google Sheets file, we can see that it added the company name. It notified about the price increase, and it added the email to the database. If we go to our email, we can see that the new email has arrived. So the email was sent. And if we want to just make sure if it extracted the right information here, it basically was able to find that the Flow client, if you go to the Flow customer offer, we can see that the price for the Flow client was 1,700. So our agent here was able to actually do all three things. It was able to extract the information from our Google Drive, send a custom email, and update CRM, all with me just telling it with natural language that, hey, you need to do this stuff, do that for me, and it's all done. How cool is that? Think about for bigger companies when they need to send plenty of emails, work with different data, and do a lot of analysis. This whole thing can be automated, just a single agent. The last thing probably you can create, you can add this agent to a Slack channel. So if we're gonna go and let's quickly do that, and I'm not gonna use the I'm gonna use the public channel, and I'm not gonna use the instant module just because it just doesn't work right for me, unfortunately. So I'll go just right here and think about, I want to output the results back in Slack. So I'll go to create message. I will select the from the list public channel. I have AI assistant, and as the tags is going to be the response. Okay, so then if you will have this one as instant channel, you can have your Slack, and let me open Slack before I show it. So here I have my Slack channel. So here I can just type basically the same thing that I was asking agent here in the make scenario. Sometimes it's just not that convenient to talk to it through the make scenario. So we want to use our own applications. Either it's going to be like MS Teams, or it's going to be like Slack or any other service. So instead of this message here, I'm going to take this message and I'm going to send this message in my Slack channel. But instead of this message, I will need to connect it to Slack. So it needs to find the tags from the Slack channel. Okay, and if I send this right here and I go to my AI assistant and I save it and run it once, basically what it does, this one extracts the information from my Slack channel, passes this information to AI agent. AI agent actually doing all the work on the behind for us. It sends an email, checks the database item is added. Once again, it's added here. So the agent works and it outputs back in Slack. And for you as the end user, you were just working in Slack, and basically you got the information that, hey, I've sent an email to Flow informing them about the price increase. Additionally, I updated the CRM database with the relevant information. If you need anything else, feel free to ask. You've just told this one in Slack, and it basically created this for you. How cool is that? This is the future. This is what's going to be in many companies in the future, and just, you know, AI automation, just whole new level. And thanks, Make, for making this AI agent modules accessible. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you got better understanding of how those kind of modules and AI agents actually work, and how many use cases you can actually create with the AI agents built on in your systems, in your stuff. And there you have it, a complete walkthrough of brand new Make's AI agent feature. By integrating AI agents into your workflow, you're not just automating tasks, you're empowering your business with intelligent decision-making capabilities. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the future content. Got questions or ideas for what you would like to see next? Drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.